Hello everyone, Lily and Daniel here with Chimpies. Thank you all for tuning in today. We appreciate it. Today we wanted to make an in-depth video and dive into the depths of how we approach weeding HTV. So without further ado, let's dive straight on into this. So for weeding HTV, our approach is rather simplistic. We use this simple picking tool right here, in which I will leave in the description below for you so you can check out on your end. This is so that we can be real precise with where we pick and pull out the HTV from the design. The design that we are going to be using at hand is a very detailed and intricate design, and I felt this would really illustrate the points that we would want to make and kind of demonstrate as we go here. So as you can see, upon pulling the HTV from the adhesive mat, you're going to want to be super careful and do it slowly, so that way if the blade accidentally cuts too deep, you're not going to ruin the design. You may be able to save it. So as you see here, we got through it safely with no problems at all. It was a perfect cut. You can't really see the details yet. However, when we begin to weed, the design starts coming to life. Here we are going to remove the excess, so that way it makes the weeding process a bit more easier, as we don't really need that on there. Now, typically where we want to begin with weeding is the outer core. The outer side of the design always comes first. Now, this is going to greatly depend on the design at hand, but typically this is where we always begin weeding, which is the outside of the design. We don't need that there on the shirt. As you see, we just poked a hole right through, picked it up, and literally manually pulled it off, if you will. Very straightforward. You want to be slow, you want to be meticulous, you want to be very patient with this process, especially when it's a design that's elaborate as the one we are doing right here, which is a custom mandala design. And again, I felt that if we went with a more elaborate design, we can really illustrate some points here within this how to weed HTV video. So as you see here, we are removing the border and we're being super patient. If there's anything adverse or any tips that I feel that we should relay, I'm going to go ahead and do so along the way. As you can see here, there's a little tight spot that's giving us a little bit of trouble, and we're just being patient, kind of working that spot to make sure that we pull off the correct areas of the HTV and that we're not pulling up the design with us. Sometimes the blade will tend to not cut all the way through, so therefore if we're in a rush, we'll pull up the HTV and it'll pull up the design that's supposed to go on the shirt with it, which is very frustrating, and especially in moments where you just want to get the work done and completed. So right here is a good illustration of what I was explaining. So here is a part where the blade didn't completely fully cut through this detailed and complex design. So in situations like this, how we typically approach it is with an X-Acto knife, is with the X-Acto blade. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with that blade. It looks like this. And we would typically manually cut the rest of the HTV away from the design, so that way we can take off the excess that's not needed within the press, or within the design that's going to be pressed. So even with this dull X-Acto knife here, we were able to simply part the excess away from the design with ease, allowing us to pull up and continue weeding this specific design accordingly. And as you see, she's being very patient, pulling the design away, ensuring that she doesn't pull up any of the design that's supposed to be on the shirt while she's pulling up here. So as you can see, she's working the design in a way to keep the design that needs to go on the shirt down, so we don't lose that part of the design. Now this requires a certain level of patience, as this design right here is a bit more advanced, or is rather more complex than the typical design that we would want to put on a shirt. But again, this really does illustrate the points that I'm trying to relay throughout this video on how to weed HTV. Certain designs are going to be a lot easier than others. Certain designs are going to require more patience than others. As you can see right here, she has to be real precise with where she's putting the pick, so that way she's carefully pulling out the correct pieces of the design, because there is little areas where there has to be little dots, as you see on the outer rim right there, where she just picked it up. So she's really taking her time and ensuring that none of those dots come up upon pulling. And here in a bit, she's going to go ahead and demonstrate a bit more areas where she utilizes the pick and her hand in a way where she can kind of keep an area down while pulling up excess. So as you see though, she's definitely just taking her time, and the pick is doing most of the work. The sharp point really allows us to go ahead and do these sort of motions. As you see, we're getting out bits and pieces at a time, and the weeding is going smoothly due to the precision that we're able to achieve using that pick. The idea of weeding HTV is to pinpoint the areas that need to be removed, so that way we are only left with a design that's going to be placed and pressed onto the shirt. So as you see, how we remove the spots that we don't need is we simply get the pick and we literally poke right through it, as you see, and pick it up. Sometimes we even kind of just push it out of there. But as you see, the majority of the time we're pretty much picking right through the excess and removing it like so. It's a very straightforward and simple process. It does get a bit tight and complex and a bit complicated, and in certain areas it really just depends on the design at hand, as I mentioned. This is real time. The weeding that you're watching is happening in real time. Now this area is definitely a little struggle and required a set amount of patience and a different approach and technique. So as you see here, there's a bit of complications there with that design. I believe the bottom got stuck, so it caused some complications upon pulling it up. Every piece may be different. Some pieces may come off smoothly, some others may give you complications. I think the idea upon weeding is to find the best and most comfortable approach while remaining calm and patient. The moment that we just choose to start wanting to rush weeding is the moment that we are going to put our design and product at risk for just overall losing the design. As you see right here, we're going into some more detailed and tight areas. As you see, these lines have to remain down, so what she's doing is she's pulling up the design, and as you see, one of them came out. What we're going to do is remove the excess that we don't need and manually place a line back on, because you can see where the original line placement was on the HTV. When this happens on your end, you'll know exactly what I mean. So as you see, problem solved, and we can continue accordingly. We will go ahead and switch to a time lapse here to kind of shorten the video here, but I will allow you to watch the weeding done real time to kind of take what you want and leave what you don't. I feel like here's a good little area that illustrates why patience is important. You can see how that intricate design right there, how that's a little line, every little detail matters. And when we start taking our time and adding up all of these little details, and when we really start pulling away the excess that we don't need, the design comes to life. Here's another area that's going to require a higher level of patience and technical approach. As you see, there's a lot of details going on, so it's easy to lose the design right here and or mess it up overall. As you see, there's floating circles that she executed correctly. So as you see, when things get a bit more uncomfortable, she changes the positioning of her hand like so, working the HTV up and away from the adhesive film. So with some meticulous and strategic working of the HTV, as you can see, she successfully pulls up the HTV, leaving us with some beautiful details there. As you can see, little dots like that are everything. This part, I believe, was going to give us some issues along the way. However, you kind of, again, just have to adjust your hands and get a comfortable spot and kind of do what you need to do along the way to leave the details down that should remain down. I feel like this part right here illustrates a good point where patience comes in hand. As you see, there's a bunch of little details here, and these could be often overlooked upon weeding as they are very, very small and tiny details. However, when we press them, they're details that will show up and that are supposed to come out. So I feel, an extra 30 seconds, 3 minutes at most, kind of just going over the design, making sure that everything is weeded correctly is ideal and kind of something that we should habitually practice each and every time we weed any and every design. Obviously, the more intricate the design, the more we would want to keep an eye out for little details. If it's just simple like text font, you kind of get the drift with that. So overall, I feel like weeding HTV simply requires patience, the correct tools, and more so the correct headspace, which goes back to the patience. I feel like being patient upon weeding HTV is the optimal way to go, as again, it is a very straightforward process. I do feel like having appropriate picks that feel great to your workflow is ideal. For example, the pick that she is using on her end allows her to be real precise with what she is pulling up, so it was ideal for this specific complex design. So you can kind of get my drift. Yet again though, weeding HTV is a very straightforward process. I feel that requires patience. I hope you can take something from this video. Should you have any questions at all, like if there's anything that we didn't touch base on specifically, feel free to drop it in the comment section down below. We are going to do our best to assist you into the best possible direction. If you have any questions, please do not hold back. I encourage you to drop a comment below. We also do have social medias all under the same name at Chimpy's Designs. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We would genuinely appreciate the support on social medias. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for us, as we would genuinely appreciate your support. We also will be bringing more videos like this. Thank you all for tuning in yet again. Everyone have a great day.